All right, the time is here. Take advantage. If you're interested in promoting your brand here at Viral Hip Hop News, music, brand, or even yourself, email me, Sam Ant, at dlsmediainc1@gmail.com for more information. Don't wait. Let's go.
Welcome to another episode of the Hip Hop Uncensored Podcast. I'm your brother Ogai from Hip Hop News Uncensored, and sitting across from me is my co-host.
What up, y'all? It's your man Sam Ant, CEO of Viral Hip Hop News. You're in the building for another edition of the Hip Hop Uncensored Podcast, a special edition indeed. We got back on the podcast. I don't know how many times it's been on here, but the brother's like family now.
Yeah.
We got Andrew Wyatt back on the podcast. How you doing, brother? Good to see you.
Man, thank you, man. Thank you, Ogar. Thank you, Sam, man. It's good to see y'all this morning. It's always a pleasure to come on your podcast and your platform because it reached millions of people, and you guys are very informative. So thank you just for providing a message and a place for people like us to come on and talk about issues of the day, issues that ultimately will affect our families.
Pleasure's ours, brother. Glad to do it.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's dive right into this, man.
Right.
We see, this Diddy situation is escalated to a whole nother level now, where they raided his two homes now. There's been a whole bunch of other speculation. They allegedly arrested his drug mule. Just take us back, man, to where you heard it. And we obviously talked about this a couple of months ago when you came on to the platform, but give us your bird's eye, perspective about what's going on with this case, if you can.
Look, we predicted it on this platform. This was a platform that said it was going to all happen, and we sort of, which that just lets you know the blessing of you guys and the blessing of the knowledge that that comes with what I do. You see it because you lived it, and you try to advise people of what's going to happen, because what you have to understand is that the lawyers that they have, they're not there to clean up your image or create a narrative in the public space. They're there to file motions and keep the meter running and try to get things thrown out that they know have no chance of being thrown out of court. A judge is not going to dismiss a civil suit. A judge is not going to do any of those things. But as it relates to Mr. Combs, they're trying to label him as the Black Jeffrey Epstein. When you really think about it, and you really look at the facts of it, to send Homeland Security investigative team and to implement, guys with armored trucks and SWAT team guys on two different coasts, it says to me that someone within his who's filing these civil charges against him is cooperating with the federal government. So basically they had some reason, some motive to say we have probable cause here to execute a search warrant. And what people have to understand with a search warrant, it gives a person, when it's signed by the magistrate, it gives the authorities an assignment to search for certain things. They can't go digging up the yard. They can't go in certain rooms and search for things, but they're searching for certain things that's going to elevate their claims, their alleged allegations against you. And so what it tells me is that someone who's suing him civilly have said, look, there's information in his homes, i.e. it could be tapes, it could be sex tapes or whatever. It could be stuff in recording studios in the home, laptops, you name it, that might have some evidence. But what I want the public to understand is that doesn't mean that he's guilty of anything. What I see what Mr. Combs has to do now from a strategy standpoint, he has to rewrite the narrative. And the narrative is not going to be rewritten on mainstream media. They're done with you. He had to just sell his shares in Revolt TV. We talked about why he had to step down as chairman from his entities on your show some months ago, because his employees were not going to be insured anymore. So he doesn't have insurance coverage, liability policies that can protect him, that can provide an umbrella for him. So right now he has to figure out all right, I don't have Revolt TV no more. That's not going to be a platform that I can use. What they were able to do, and what people have to understand with Homeland Security is what you see in the airport, TSA. That falls under Homeland Security. Their whole modus operandi is to restrict you from being able to move. They're trying to find enough evidence to say, let's restrict this person from being able to get on a private jet, from being able to get on a yacht, from being able to have access to capital. That's the purpose of Homeland Security. And as I tried to warn Robert Kelly, when Robert Kelly and I talked, and his people reached out to me when the allegations first surfaced, and he was trying to do everything. He released a 20-minute recording saying, "I'm not Bill Cosby." I never forget that. But his team still reached out to me, and he said, "Well, can you talk with him?" And my advice I gave them, I said, "Look, he has to start changing his image right now. Every lawyer in America is going to tell you, my job is not to change your image. My job is to work in the courtroom." So they don't care about what narrative is being written out here. They don't care about the frequency being turned up, because as the frequency is being turned up, you're going to need them more and more. And Robert, I said to one of his advisors who reached out to me, now he pled guilty for calling the movie theater and inciting a riot, saying that a bomb was going to go off Don Russell. Don Russell got on the phone with me and said, "Look, here's Robert's number. Can you talk to him?" I told Robert, I said, if you don't reshape the image right now and get those two women out of the Trump Towers where you're staying, they're going to come for you, because now you're painting the image as yourself being a black Hugh Hefner. If Hugh Hefner had to move the original Playboy Mansion from Chicago to LA, what makes you think you could be Hugh Hefner in Chicago? A white man had to leave Chicago. That's where the Playboy Mansion was created. So right now it's the same formula, because first off, Bill Cosby became the litmus test. How to turn up the volume and turn up the frequency with no facts, proof, or evidence of anything. I know it's mere speculation. We hear people in the recording industry say, well, hey, Diddy is this guy. We hear Mace talking about it. We hear all of these artists who are angry with him because of their publishings and other things. So they're going to come out with their own narrative. They have their own platform, and they have millions of followers who are going to take on their anger. But what I'm saying to people, we have to be careful about, promoting or endorsing what's happening to Sean Combs right now. Because what they're doing, when they detained his sons and put them in handcuffs, look, they were no threat to anyone. But when we on social media and these social media enthusiasts out here who are armchair quarterbacks, and they want to get out here and incite something or talk about what they know, no proof, facts, or truth. They haven't had one alleged accuser, one witness on their show, and they want to talk about, oh no, he did it. Right. We have to be careful about that, because now we're giving them a license to go into any black neighborhood and black community and just mistreat us. If they could go into some of the most, one of the most affluent communities in Miami and LA and bring armored trucks to this black man's home, and they haven't provided any evidence and proof, we just hear speculation. And we have to also remember that the district that's doing this, the Southern District of New York, the same district that came after R. Kelly, the same district that took down Trump. Now they're coming after Diddy, the same district for Jeffrey Epstein. Wow. However, what I want to remind people of, when they raided Mar-a-Lago, they didn't detain anyone. That's right, not far from Diddy in Miami. And what we have to understand that Mr. Combs has to do right now, he cannot sit back idle and say, well, I'm going to put it in the hands of my attorney. No, you're a vocal person. I'm not saying for you to go out there, but you got to have surrogates right now to come out and plead your case. But here's the problem. When they see the federal government involved, that's to isolate you from people who would normally come out and support you, because now they're fearful that you're going to start talking because you're going to become afraid. So now this is a way to go after the Jay-Z's of the world. You go after everybody in that circle, everybody who has come to that home. And we talked about it on this show. None of this would be happening to Mr. Combs if he had never sued Ciroc.
We talked about it.
We did.
You brought it up yesterday. Let me ask you this, Mr. Wyatt. So we've seen since Cassie put her lawsuit in, I think it was around Thanksgiving or so. We were talking about that window that they had to hit, and it was around Thanksgiving that Thursday.
Yeah, the look back window that closed.
Yeah. We see that bombshell get dropped, and ever since then, the media, like you were just alluding to, public perception has absolutely crushed Diddy. How influential was that? How influential was the media and the narratives being spun about this man in Homeland Security going into his houses in Miami and LA a couple of days ago? Did that have any influence on them doing that?
Yes, it did. It had the same. It was the same influence with Mr. Cosby. When you think about it, 2014, they put their art collection on loan to the Smithsonian. We're all at the event, and the AP sits down with him and Mrs. Cosby, and they bring up these alleged allegations. If you remember, when they brought those allegations up, you have to go back and do the research. What was the biggest event going on at that time in America that captivated the world? It was Ferguson, Mike Brown.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was Mike Brown. They were able to bring a surge, mainstream media, with women flooding Bill Cosby, Mr. Cosby, saying that he raped and drugged me. And a writer for Philly magazine, Bob Hubert, goes on CNN and say, do not let Mike Brown, Ferguson, nor the holidays take Bill Cosby out of the news. Fast forward. Look at what's happening to Mr. Combs. We had a bridge that was wrecked and lives were destroyed in Baltimore, the Key Bridge, torn down. Yeah. We had an independent candidate for president, Robert Kennedy Jr., announcing his VP candidate out of Oakland, Ms. Shanahan. We had all of these things going on where Donald Trump, a gag order was announced on him yesterday for his upcoming trial on April 15th. But what media said, do not take Sean Combs out of the news. As soon as they did those stories, they went back to having reporters stacked outside his Miami and LA home. The whole job, the media is doing their job, is as Malcolm X said, the media has the ability to make the innocent guilty and the guilty innocent. That's the power of the media. When they want to put their foot on the gas pedal, they don't have to let it up, because there's a message that goes out. All of the media entities work together. Although they're competitors, they work together. I can tell you firsthand knowledge, we're in the courtroom for Mr. Cosby's trial, and NBC is telling ABC, and CBS and the New York Times is telling the Washington Post, okay, you talk about this, we're going to talk about that. No, don't you write about this, we're going to write about that. And they all will huddle up in circles. Wow. I reported a young lady from the New York Times. I called the New York Times, her boss at the New York Times, because she said on her social media page, she said, to all my journalism friends, meet me at this coffee shop in New York City, and we're going to turn Donald Trump into Bill Cosby.
Wow. Wow.
That's the influence of the media. I worked in the business. I worked for ABC and Fox. I did 12 years in the business. They used to have us go out and set people up. They would tell us how to turn up the frequency. They would, if we got an exclusive interview, that's all the media wants now. A network wants an exclusive interview with a Diddy. The same way I tried the day that Robert Kelly was getting ready to do the interview with Gayle King, I tried to stop it.
Yeah.
I called everybody in his camp trying to stop it, because what did they make him look like? When he stood up in rage and anger, he looked like the black gorilla.
Like a fool. Yep.
And what did she do? Miss King sat there as if she was like terrified. Oh my God, he's going to jump on me. He's going to beat me. What Mr. Combs cannot do, he can't go to mainstream. He has to come to a show like Hip Hop Uncensored. You got to go back to the people.
Right.
That's the mistake that these individuals make.
Yeah.
See, your agents and your managers and all of the people around you, when you're riding that wave, they tell you to stay away from grassroots media entities and podcasts like yours.
Wow.
They tell you that you're not allowed to give an interview. They're not allowed to give an interview to any of you guys. They're saying that will hurt your brand.
Wow.
They're going to kill your brand off, because the whole objective is to control you and control your brand. I'm telling you, I have the only formula. That's why I say it's not about me two, it's about us two. Mm-hmm. You know, this formula that I have, we were the litmus test, tried, true, and tested on what errors to make and what errors not to make. There was no book for me to go to and say, okay, what should I do? It was all trial and error. Yes, a lot of mistakes were made, but when you have never seen anything like that before. So what I had to go back to the Cosbys, Mr. and Mrs. Cosby, and say to both of them, look, mainstream media will never be your friend anymore. That's done. Mm-hmm. They have gotten all of the miles that they want to get out of you. And what I related it to, I said, it's like renting a car from Enterprise. When Enterprise, you could have a long-term rental, but when they see that car reaching, you have to report and check in, and you have to renew your rental every other week or every 2 weeks or every month. When they see that car reaching 30,000 miles, no, we got to switch you out and bring you in.
Yep.
You know, so the media, you reached your mileage with mainstream media. And when they see a black man trying to control the culture with Revolt TV and is doing a hell of a job of controlling the culture and putting our narratives out here, and then you have certain podcasters or influencers, they're becoming guests on Revolt TV. When you hire Mara Schivacampo to run your news division at Revolt TV, who was with ABC News, and she was a dear friend of mine. I had her to host an event for me that I did in Baton Rouge for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference over 10 years ago. Okay. And brought in Ava DuVernay and some other people. She hosted that for me when she was at ABC News. Okay, you're making power moves.
Yep.
But let's talk about Nickelodeon. Let's talk about Dan Snyder. Okay, where's Homeland Security Investigative Team with that issue? Where's the Southern District of New York with that right now?
Right.
How is it that you utilize Diddy to circumvent that storyline? Why? Because Diddy doesn't have the money that NBC, CBS, and ABC has. He doesn't have the resources that Disney has. ABC owns Disney, ESPN. Okay, CBS. Look at all the shows, Viacom. See, right now, Nickelodeon was in the hot seat. What did they start doing? They started putting clips of Diddy on Nickelodeon. It was one infamous clip that they pulled where he was sitting along poolside, and they came to him. The white guys come to him on how to get the girl or something.
Mm-hmm.
That just came out last week. What Mr. Combs has to do is humanize himself with grassroots media entities. And if I ever, I think the fear for having me on the team is that you have so many of these attorneys who say, whoa, if he comes in, he's going to watch what we're doing. He's going to watch the meter. He's going to say, no, that's not the strategy you should be doing right now. The strategy that I was able to do with the Cosbys was say, no, let me hire your attorneys.
Right.
Let me oversee not only the legal team, I'm overseeing everything. Mm. Now, everybody has a hub to report in. I'm like, no, your job is to go out right now, and you're to go out here and humanize your client. Because right now, your client has been dehumanized, which is my client.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So what Mr. Combs has to do, he's no longer Diddy. See, they want to remind people of Diddy. Diddy is the party animal.
Yeah.
Diddy is the guy that promotes Ciroc. Diddy is the guy that has multiple women and he's all on social media. He's still having children. That's Diddy. You can't be Diddy now. You can't be Bad Boy. No, you're a bad boy. Remember, we're going to promote him as Bad Boy. We have to go back to Mr. Combs, Sean Combs, because that's who you are.
Yeah.
Right now, they have labeled him as like a El Chapo in the sex industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And since you're El Chapo, we got to come with armored trucks and SWAT team guys to raid both of your homes at the same time.
Right.
That's the beauty of that warrant. That warrant has a time and date, an exact time and date for it to be executed. And they did it at the same time. They did it as if it was being simulcasted.
Yeah.
Where you had the networks have, the way it works, you have the networks, they have a pool camera. One pool camera is the camera for all the networks. So when you flip your television from ABC, CBS, Fox, NBC, the scene is the same.
Right.
It's the same visual because it's just that one pool camera that everybody's operating on. Well, they had one pool camera, and think about it. It was well orchestrated because they gave the media time to be in place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Dang.
Because when I worked in the news business, they brought in all of these strategies, and they were bringing these psychologists to help us on how to tell a story, how to paint a person negatively, how to make a person look guilty. The first rule that I was taught, in order to make someone look guilty, and you want to control public opinion, and you want to control the jury pool, and you want to taint the jury pool against a person who's been accused of whatever, is to first get them in handcuffs.
Wow.
Because the minute that you see a person in handcuffs, you deem them as being guilty.
Yeah. That too.
We all do that. It's common nature. It's the way the mind works.
Yeah.
The media has the juice to control the mind. It's all about perception. Mm-hmm. So the perception that was given, we're going to give the media an opportunity to get in place so they can come and be in a spot to see our trucks, our convoy, as if we're in Iraq.
Right.
Raid this multi-million-dollar, this billion-dollar community. But we're going to raid the home of a black man.
Put his children in cuffs and have that visually on the screen and never see him get
because now that the children now are labeled just as heinous as the father.
Right.
Because what they have done is saying, no, now your children can't publicly come on Hip Hop Uncensored and speak eloquently about their father. Because now we now don't want to hear about what you got to say about your dad. Why were you in handcuffs? What did you do wrong? So you don't give them an opportunity to even talk about, hey, we were just playing video games. It's AEA week. It's spring break.
Right.
That's why we're in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
So you take their privilege away of being able to be an advocate for their dad.
Right. I was listening to Long Crime Network yesterday, and they were interviewing an FBI agent, and they said no doubt Diddy will face sex trafficking charges. What are your thoughts?
That's true. That's true.
Wow.
They don't. Why would you implement resources at that level that day alone for being there on two different coasts and the manpower you had there? It's going to be a price tag of $1 million+. It's up in the millions.
Wow.
You have to understand the federal government prints the money. They have unlimited resources. So right now, at Homeland Security, their only job is to isolate your way to get resources, financial resources, to travel. You're under a watchful eye. Charges have not been filed, but you're under a watchful eye. So now, Mr. Combs' attorneys are probably telling him, you have to stay put. You can't move. When TMZ got a picture of him, what was he walking around Miami Airport by himself? You can't move. You have a yacht. You have a plane. The mistake what a lot of people do, and I understand your agents and your managers, they want you to show what wealth looks like. Because people then say, I want to be like him. It helps elevate your entourage. It elevates your celebrity status when people see those things. If you remember early part of last year, you saw Mr. Combs showing off his black yacht and had his staff, 100+ people on the deck.
Yeah.
His plane matched his yacht. Well, what he has to understand, that was the beginning of the setup. It was no different than Denzel Washington wearing the fur coat.
Yeah.
The mink coat. The quickest things that get you under a watchful eye of an investigation is when you start buying luxury items, cars, jewelry, airplanes, and boats. First of all, where did this Negro get this kind of money from? That's how they think.
That's a fact.
How did he slip through the cracks? They saw it's the same formula. Before the charges happened against Mr. Cosby, I'll never forget, touring all over the U.S. Summer 2014, he calls me and said, Andrew, there's some gawker with Newsweek wrote an article trying to compare me, R. Kelly, Woody Allen as sexual predators. He said, what do you think about it? I said, it's not going to work. He said, okay, well, they're going to honor me this year for the Johnny Carson Award. It's going to be the first time that they do a Johnny Carson Award. It's going to be something annual. I'm going to be the first one to get the Johnny Carson Award in New York City. I have a new television show coming out by Sony that Sony's producing. It's going to be on NBC. It's going to debut February 15th, February of 2015. So shows are selling out. Agents got him booked. They got him moving. Same thing with Diddy. They build you up to destroy you. They let Sean Combs win VMA awards. He comes out with a new album called Love.
Right.
They give him all the accolades. We're going to give you the Last Supper. They gave him the Last Supper. Now Judas is going to come and kiss you on the cheek.
You know, let me. I got to do it. I'm going to play devil's advocate real quick, right? I got to because I'm.
Please do.
On the table, right? So you have Diddy, and his reputation is okay. Yeah, he may have exhibited some weird homosexual behavior in the past. Nobody can refute that, deny it. We don't know, right? He has done some very shady and unhumane things when it comes to the record industry. A lot of people complain about his managerial practices when it comes to the industry. And now we kind of box all this into this melting pot of him being a sex trafficker. He's done it. There's no way he didn't do it, Andrew. There's no way he didn't do it. This is who he is. Is there a chance or a speck that all of this is true, in your opinion? Because we went back and forth about this a lot, and we don't know. We just want to give the other side. But in your opinion, watching and seeing what you see, is there any chance that any of this is true?
Look, everybody in the Constitution says that everyone is innocent until proven guilty.
Facts.
So here we are. We can speculate. I foresee charges being filed against him because you don't put forth that many resources and you don't plan to file charges. You have to always understand that what they learned from Mr. Cosby, they made the mistakes. And it wasn't Mr. Cosby's attorneys that walked him out of that prison. It was his publicist, crisis manager that walked him out.
Talk about
That's unheard of. It's never been done before. So I see what's coming down the pipe with Diddy. I see that charges are going to be filed. I see that, the FBI and all of these federal agencies are now involved because the FBI job and only role is to isolate you from your friends. Because when they start interviewing your friends, then people don't want to take your calls because they're going to figure that you're recording them, that either you have now taken a deal with the FBI to bring bigger names forward. So we can't always say just because we see a speck of something that dust right there is going to destroy the whole home. Or that dust has some type of element to it to destroy the whole home, or that dust is so powerful that it's going to stop us from being able to breathe clean air in our homes. Just because you see a speck of dust doesn't mean that your home is dirty. You just might have a home that's made out of wood, but it doesn't mean that you have a dirty house. And that's what I want to remind people. Just because the media have shown you a speck of dust when it comes to Mr. Combs, he's a citizen of these United States, and he's innocent until proven guilty. We can speculate all day, but one thing that we know, guys, I've worked with hip hop artists. I had the pleasure to work with a number of hip hop artists back in the day, and I had the pleasure to work with Jazzy Faye. We worked on a number of projects together. I used to be in the studio with Jazzy in Atlanta, and all of the animals would pull up in the parking deck. I call the Lamborghinis the animals, and they would pull up in the parking deck, and we were in the studio, and Gucci Mane was next door recording, and all of that. So I've been around that. I've seen that, and what I have recognized and understood, Ruben Studdard. Ruben would tell you today, I helped him get on American Idol. I helped raise the money for him to go try out for American Idol. One of my best friends. So I understand the industry. And I understand that the music industry is the most heinous industry out of all the branches of the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
It's the most ruthless out of all the branches of the entertainment industry. And what a lot of artists out here, especially in the hip hop world, do, they're so captivated in all of the luxury that comes with that. You know, not just the money, not just the cars and the jewelry, not just the women, but all the other luxuries that come with it.
Mhm.
You know, how they have to walk around and bring all this attention to themselves. But that's what the managers and the agents of the record and the A&R people, they want that image. They're creating that brand, so when it's time to tear you down, they have the ability to do so because they controlled you. They created you. You forgot about who you were. You forgot about how you got there. And you have to understand what a lot of people have forgotten about. And I'm going to remind you today, Diddy's best friend who funded him, who was a kingpin out of Virginia, Corey Jacobs, received a presidential pardon from Obama and Eric Holder.
Wow.
He had 16 life sentences
Mm.
in federal prison. Google Corey Jacobs. He's living with Diddy now.
Mm. Wow.
Diddy kept at least 100 grand on his books when he was in prison. 100 grand or more. It's more to this story.
Yeah.
Go do the research on Corey Jacobs, who lived with Diddy now.
Wow.
He's one of Diddy's advisors. He went down.
Mhm.
He was the one that funded Bad Boy. They all went to middle school and high school together.
Okay.
And Google Corey Jacobs and Obama. Obama gave him a pardon.
Yep.
He was the kingpin. He had 16 life sentences.
Wow.
You think somebody in the federal government is not pissed off?
Yeah.
And just always remember this with Mr. Combs, if we ever talk, I would tell him this. When somebody set you up, it's not that far away. It's usually within your backyard. It's somebody who you have pissed off, who might have came to you and said, look, I need to buy a house. And you said, hey, get the hell out of here, man.
Yeah.
It's usually that small. Good friend of mine, she's a former FBI agent, 35 years. And another college classmate of mine, he runs an FBI office. And one thing they always told me, the FBI, we don't have time to just go and look into people. We don't have the time to do all of that. Usually when an investigation starts on a person, it started probably 7 to 8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And it usually happens because it's somebody you pissed off that you promised something and they didn't get what they want. So they was heated at that moment and they called and gave us a tip. So when they called the tip line and give us a tip, then we said, oh, we just got a tip. Then you have a supervisor say, hey, why don't you look into this? You got to remember most of the people in the FBI agency, most of them are lawyers. They have some form of law training. They've been to law school in some form or another. And then that one person who's hungry to make a name for themselves in the bureau comes back and say, I found something. So like the wheels of justice churn slowly, the FBI could sit and wait on you for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
They could just wait it out. They're not eager to move on anything. The government's never eager to, the federal government, never eager to move on anything. They want to build a case and allow you to have fun. But they have the ability to say, you know what? It's like a parent. Hey, the fun is over. It's time to do homework. And Mr. Combs, it's time to do homework. The fun is over. It's time. You can't go outside and play no more. You can't be out playing. You can't enjoy life no more. We've taken that away. We've given you enough years to have fun. Wow. Now we're going to show you what life really looks like. The federal government, they are our parents.
Pretty much.
They're our parents. So you're never an adult.
Right.
You have to pay your property taxes. You have to pay your taxes. You never become a full-grown adult as long as you have the federal government hovering over you.
Right.
So what Mr. Combs has to do now is start reaching out to a hip hop uncensored, and he has to come to a place where people look like him. I never forget having a conversation with Reverend Jackson's wife, Mrs. Jackson, Mrs. Jacqueline Jackson. Her 80th birthday was a week and a half ago. And we always spend time together talking and having a great time. And she said the worst thing that any Black iconic figure could do is move out of their community. And she said that was the worst thing that my friends, Mr. Cosby, could have done. She said, if you look at Hyde Park, Minister Farrakhan lives in the community. She said, we live in the community. The worst thing that a successful entertainer can ever do is isolate themselves from their people. She said in the 60s, the 50s, Nat King Cole was your neighbor.
Right.
You look at Baldwin Hills, they call it the Black Beverly Hills.
Mm-hmm.
That's where a lot of the Black celebrities lived. And then they decided, I want to integrate myself into Beverly Hills, but you're never going to be accepted because your last name determines your acceptance. Because your last name has a lineage to it to say, oh yeah, his great grandfather lived here in Beverly Hills. That's that street name. You won't ever get a street named after you in Beverly Hills.
Right.
You won't ever get a street named after you in the Hamptons. You won't ever get a street named after you in the Homeby community where Diddy has a house in LA because you're not of LA. They're going to try to bring all types of things against him. They're going to say, well, look, he ran a sex trafficking ring. He's had people murdered. Don't be surprised if you don't see Biggie Smalls come up, that he had his hands in that. That he had his hands in Tupac murder.
Yep.
They're going to stack the deck so high,
Man,
that they cover all the dots so that he can never come back and say double jeopardy.
Man, I want to address the elephant in the room real quick, and that's Jay-Z. Everybody's been talking about Jay-Z. First, why is he so silent? And everybody's saying that Jay-Z is going to be next. I keep seeing
Well,
it.
I've been saying that from day one of Mr. Cosby. I stood on the steps of Montgomery Courthouse and I said, Jay-Z, President Obama, LeBron James, they're not going to let you leave here as King James. They didn't let Mr. Cosby leave as America's dad. They're not going to have that happen. If you guys sit back idle and you don't come and stand with us and so show solidarity and put our resources together, you open yourself up. The only thing that's saving Jay-Z right now is his relationship with the Obamas and him being married to Beyonce.
Wow. Ooh,
however, don't believe and think they're going to allow America to have two Black dynasties.
Ooh.
And you got to understand, Jay-Z opened himself up at the Grammys when he criticized them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ooh.
When you criticize the gatekeeper and you talk about your wife has won more Grammys than anybody who has gotten album of the year. No, you're attacking our own. How dare you? Who do you think you are? We let you, and then you're going to take the Grammy Award and sip champagne out of it.
Right. Yep.
Look, the heat's coming. But what they're saying to Jay-Z, look, you're going to have to be quiet because just last year, Diddy had a party at his LA home and you were there.
Right beside him. Yep.
Y'all were dapping it up. So Jay-Z, you don't think Jay-Z's being interviewed right now?
Ooh.
Look,
Yes, he is.
how are we going to allow you, this black man, to be over providing all of the entertainment for the Super Bowl halftime show, NBA All-Star game? And what Jay-Z has to understand, they have used you to take down other black people like the Chris Browns of the world. Look, Chris Brown Page is dead.
Ooh. Wow.
I remember being with Chris Brown. I have a photo I could send to you guys. My daughter was young. She was probably maybe 11 years old. My nephew at the time, he's doing federal time because he tried to rob a bank. He was probably 10 at the time, and some other young people. And these guys out of Chicago reached out to me because it was this young guy, Chris Brown. They was like, we want you to meet him and possibly work with him. Man, when I met Chris Brown, I'll send you the photo, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
When I met him, he was this 19-year-old with no tattoos, just clean, doing backflips, and just a clean cut guy. And when you look at him now, man, because he's so angry and he's so frustrated, I'm not saying anything's about wrong with a tattoo. I'm just saying you look at how his image has changed because he's frustrated, because how he's being treated. First off, he was a young man when that happened with Rihanna. At the time, Rihanna was calling him, telling him happy birthday.
Mm-hmm.
They had a cordial relationship. But what I'm saying, we have to stop tearing down each other. One thing you've never seen me go on any platform and tear down my own people. I give insight to what's going on, but I don't say this person is a bad person. But I have to remind people that if we have a show of unity, imagine if Mr. Cosby, Sean Combs, Sean Carter, Russell Simmons, Robert Kelly, if they all came together and stood together and they pull their resources together and say, you know what, we're going to set up some type of fund or nonprofit where we're going to dump each $40 to $50 million in here, and we're going to make sure that people have proper representation, because everybody deserves representation, because we're going to make sure the government cannot just come after us and make up, alleged allegations, because anyone can make up an accusation. Just because there's an accusation out there doesn't mean it's true.
Right.
But we live in a world now of social media where the government and mainstream media has said, you know what, let's throw a bone to these so-called influencers. They give our so-called influencers enough to say, okay, well, you get to be monetized. All you're probably making is maybe $25 or, max maybe $800, some people.
Right.
Only a select few are making the millions of dollars. They have to give a select few of us the opportunity to have 20, 30 million followers like Kai Cenat or whatever the guy name is. They because they have to say we're being fair.
Mm.
And we fall for it, and we was like, well, yeah, they got, but they only got 5 people that look like us who making $4 million a year off of social media.
Yeah.
Now, if we stop drinking the Kool-Aid and falling for the okie doke, because now they used to hold our neck back and force the Kool-Aid down our throat. We willingly drink the Kool-Aid now.
Oh yeah, heck yeah.
We willingly drink it now, and we willingly go on these platforms with no evidence, no proof. We have nobody from the business on. You guys are one of the few platforms that bring actual people on who have knowledge in that industry to educate the public. We have to quit falling for that game because, first of all, it's boring.
Mm-hmm.
And for Mr. Combs, look, I wish him the best. He can overcome this, but he can't overcome it unless you got somebody who's done it before.
Now, Diddy's track record, right, over the years, we've heard so many rumors about this dude the last 20 years, his sexuality, like I said, his business practices. For the most part, this is him. He stays silent. You know what I mean? He doesn't go out there. He's not throwing lawsuits. He's not really defending himself publicly. He kind of just lets things ride. Like, for example, like a 50 Cent. You're not talking about a 50 Cent the way you talk about Diddy. You have a lawsuit on your table in 20 minutes. You're not going to take us if you have a lawsuit on your table in 20 minutes. Yeah. So should Diddy, in your opinion, maybe change up some of that? And I know you alluded to earlier in the conversation, maybe him not personally coming out here and saying it, but some type of representation. Or if he were to say something going on the right platform and saying it, given the opportunity to make sure he puts the narrative the way it needs to be. Do you think he will do it, in your opinion?
Look, this is a different element for a different Sean Combs now.
Yeah.
You know, Sean Combs has never faced the Homeland Security investigative team raiding his homes. You know, it might have been a lawsuit here and there. Somebody suing for their publishings.
Right.
But we've never seen Sean Combs face civil suits at this level. Right. Not at a level where we have a hashtag Me Too.
Mm-hmm.
He's never seen this before. You know, silence is a beautiful thing. Look, I will always tell someone when they reach your Miranda rights, they tell you have the right to remain silent. He does have the right to remain silent, but you got to find those surrogates that could go out on your behalf and say, this is not the man that I know.
Yeah.
And you got to pull those individuals out now while you have some lifelines left. I always say you have, when allegations like these happen, you have a small window to cash in your poker chips. You got a small window to cash in those favors. So now is the time to say, hey, Mary, I need you. Mary, I need what as soon as the allegations happen against Mr. Cosby, the first person I called and asked to come out on his behalf at the height of it all in December 2014 was Felicia Rashad.
Right.
So he has to start pooling those people because he has to create his own jury pool. Because they have tainted the jury pool against him now. They have shown you that no man who has a sexual assault allegation waged against him and charges have been filed is going to win in the Southern District of New York. Donald Trump didn't win. Robert Kelly didn't win. Jeffrey Epstein didn't win.
Right.
They have Harvey Weinstein didn't win.
Right.
All in New York. They have shown you that when they select a juror supposed to be of your peers, And you have to understand, and research has shown it, that the level of education of a juror is 7th grade.
Wow.
Research shows that. Go do the research. And what I'm saying, you have to be out now putting information out there to potential jurors.
Because public perception is important, and that's pretty much what they're riding off of.
Right, because you got 2 courtrooms. You got the courtroom where the case will happen, and then you got the courtroom on the steps on the outside, the court of public opinion.
Yeah.
If you don't win on the courtroom outside, how do you win inside? Because right now, okay, tell me when you go and you have most jurors are sequestered. Nobody's sequestered right now because charges have not been filed. So while they have not been sequestered,
great point,
and they have the capabilities of being on their phone, watching social media, listening to the news, reshape your narrative.
Yeah, absolutely.
Reshape the narrative right now. Because you have the ability right now to control the message. You have the ability right now to control the mind. You still have influence. Look, you gave Howard University $1 million. They took your money, didn't give it back, but took your name off everything. We've seen that story before where they did it to Bill Cosby. Every university, PWIs and HBCUs, took the money and gave nothing back. You're not going to get that goodwill ambassador money back.
Right.
Those people have already formulated an opinion of you. You have to reach the mind of the 7th grader. You have to reach that mindset that's going to die to get on a jury, overseeing a potential Diddy trial, alleged Diddy trial. Because why? They see a book opportunity in it for them. You got to understand, now people are going to really ride your coattail, and you have no way to stop it.
Yeah.
People are going to make money off of you, and you have no way to stop it, because you know what? They have painted you as a monster.
Yeah.
That's a good. What do you think about? Because you saying that, right, makes me think of, you see a lot of Diddy's former artists, former employees that in hindsight may have spent a month with him, but they know this man's whole life story. They're on every platform, every publication saying that, oh yeah, I remember when Diddy was here doing this. Oh, I remember when Diddy was here doing that, doing this. Them disgruntled employees coming out and saying all kind of stuff, and we're running with it. Like everybody's running with it. What do you think about that dynamic? On
well, because somebody has been on the inside of a person's life doesn't mean that they know everything.
That's a fact.
The cook was just a cook. You know what I'm saying? He was just a cook.
Right.
The server was no different than the waitress in a restaurant. She just plated the meal and put it on the table.
Right.
They were not privy to sitting at the table with him and having dinner with him. But because somebody worked in your establishment, it's no different than an employee working in a conglomerate. How many times do you think they get to see the president?
Word.
Or even the executive vice president? They don't. They only know their job description. But anybody can make up a story, especially in the era that we live in now. Because I could just go online right now. I could put up, if I wanted to, I could create a whole narrative against anybody I work with. Terrence Howard now, we were together in December, and we're doing some stuff together right now. And I could paint him right now. Because I remember I was having lunch with Lester Holt, and he said to me at lunch, he said, what advice would you give to a person who has any form of celebrity? And the first thing I said, be careful with who you take a picture with. I said, because if you're in the picture, you can be framed.
Yeah. Ooh. That was a bar right there, Mr. Wyatt. That was a bar right there.
Yeah. You know, you can be framed. So be careful who you take that picture with. You know, because somebody could take Sam Ogard, somebody could take a picture with y'all right now, and they just saw y'all coming out because they see your podcast and they want to get you. And then the next thing you know, see, I was with him early in the day and he raped me. A picture speaks 1,000 words, but right now it speaks millions of words of your guilt or your innocence. Somebody's in somebody's picture right now and they are on somebody there. It's in a frame. And now it doesn't have to be a frame hanging on the wall. It's a frame in your cell phone. You are a frame.
Yeah.
And when you're a frame, that means you can be framed.
This was powerful.
Yeah, needed.
Yeah.
Needed.
So I say to everybody, you are no longer regular. The moment you can Google your name, you lost the ability to be regular. We're not in the 50s and 60s or 70s anymore where you can go knock on the door and Marvin Gaye is listed in the white pages.
Right.
That era is gone.
Right.
We're in a different environment now. And the minute that I can Google you and you're recognizable, your status has elevated and you're no longer regular. So regular folks can't do regular things anymore. So your circle becomes tighter and you watch what you say. Your security person can't know everything about you.
Right.
They're your security to secure you from facing bodily harm. They're not your security to know what's happening in your marriage and your relationship. That's none of their business. Because the minute they get a piece of some impropriety in your personal life, they have the ability to use it against you when they don't get what they want or they see you make more than them.
Yep. Great point.
So unless you're putting your security team in the same lifestyle as you, they're gonna form some type of envy against you. Look, I tell everybody the most dangerous person in the world is a lazy person with ambition.
Don't we know it? Don't we know it? Man.
This is the most dangerous person in the world because they lazy. They don't do nothing all day, but they have the ambition to take you down. And you could crack a person's head open and you could put all type of knowledge in there, but you can't put ambition in there.
It's a fact.
So what Diddy has to understand, what Mr. Combs has to understand, is that he got a lot of lazy people around him who got ambition. And those same lazy people took that ambition in your circle because you move with too many people. When you move with too many people, the binoculars are not meant to rotate. They're meant to be still and give you a visual. Your binoculars can't rotate. You can't rotate your head and see what everybody is doing. While you're stunned walking around, you got some guy in the back of you frowning, mean mugging you. You're like, man, who does he think he really is? But you're paying him.
Yeah.
He's a lazy person with ambition.
Don't we know it? Got any more?
Nah.
Yeah, we're gonna drop the gavel right there, man. Yeah, Andrew Wyatt on the Hip Hop Uncensored Podcast, man. We appreciate you. We know you're a busy brother. We can go on all day, man, but we're not gonna do that.
I enjoy talking to you guys, man, and thank you for having me on. And my only reason for coming on is not about me, is to educate people on. We have to be careful on how we subject our words to deeming a person guilty. because we don't like them because of personal things we've heard in the industry. And I always said, put your personal feelings aside. Think about, they're setting a precedent, the federal government. If we could do this to him, then we could come into they could come into our backyards and do this to us. So we have to stand against some of these things, and we have to be a visible force when these trials happen. And that's where the people who listen and watch your podcast, your subscribers, they have to put the resources. $20 add up to $100, $100 add up to $1,000, and say, you know what? I want hip hop uncensored. If this thing should ever go to trial, I want hip hop uncensored there. I want them to have media credentials so they could report everything that's actually happening in that courtroom, because mainstream media, they're going to redirect the narrative, and they're going to tell the story to benefit their sponsors. They make $1 billion on the hour every time Donald Trump is in the news. Now they're making more billions because they have another Black celebrity that they're about to take down, Mr. Combs, and they're about to take him down. But he can stop this. He can stop this witch hunt right now with the right strategists, in his corner, and giving him the right, decisions to make, and to say, look, you don't have to say a word, just be present.
Real quick before we get out of here, at this present juncture, I know you said you haven't spoken to him yet, but has anybody from his team as of March 26th reached out to you?
No, they have not. Have not. Different people have reached out to me from major mainstream news entities, which they always do reach out, asking if I would come on board. And I always lead people, and I'll leave you guys with this: everybody deserves representation.
Absolutely.
Andrew Wyatt on the Hip Hop Uncensored Podcast. We always appreciate your knowledge. Always appreciate you picking up the phone within minutes.
Yes, sir.
Not days, not months, minutes.
Yes, sir.
Man,
I pride myself on that. I believe, I tell everybody, my pet peeve, and when I worked in the news business, I learned it. My pet peeve is a person who can't pick up the phone. That bothers me. It just bothers me, because that's the easiest. It's easier than doing a text message. You got to type it and do it. Well, you could just hit the number, and I could just get you on the phone and say, yeah, I'll do it. That's one of my biggest pet peeves with not picking up the phone. Everybody wants to just do whatever and not returning a phone call. Everybody, even if the answer is no, give that person the respect, because they're a human being like you, and return their phone calls. You're not too big. I'm never going to be too big to return a phone call. I'm working on my book right now. And when that happens, I'm never going to be too big to say, I'm going to take Sam over. I'm not going to ever be too big not to take your call. I wanted to show you guys the respect and level of respect I have for you. My first year just show, I drove to you.
Yes, you did.
Yes, appreciate that.
So, man, y'all have a great day, man. Be blessed, and maybe your families be blessed, man, as we come up on Passover. And just remember, that we were taken out the hands of bondage and delivered to a land that's still on our land, and we're wandering around miserable. And that's why we see so many things happen to us, because this is not our land. It's still on a strange land. And y'all enjoy your families, man.
Hey, man, you do the same. We appreciate you. Andrew Wyatt on the Hip Hop Uncensored Podcast, brother. We appreciate you. Salute.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
All right, bro. Thank you, man. Y'all have a great day.
You have a great day, too. Thank you.